humble farmer from the tribe of Judah. Jesse had 8 sons, and David was the youngest of them all. His older brothers were strong, experienced men who worked hard and were known in their community. But David, being the youngest, often stayed behind while his brothers went out to fight battles or tend the larger flocks. From his earliest days, David had a heart full of music and faith. He loved to sing songs to God as he watched over his father's sheep on the hills of Bethlehem. When the sun set and the stars filled the sky, David would take out his harp and play beautiful melodies, lifting his voice in worship to the Lord. Even in his youth, David understood that God was real and close to him. He saw God's power in the beauty of nature and felt his protection whenever danger came near. David was not only a musician, he was also brave and skilled. As a shepherd, he had to protect his sheep from wild animals that came to attack. One night, a lion grabbed one of the lambs from the flock. David ran after it, struck it, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. Another time, a bear came out of the woods to steal a sheep, and David fought it off with his bare hands. Through these experiences, David learned courage, faith, and dependence on God. While David was living his simple life in the fields, Israel was being ruled by King Saul. Saul had been chosen by God, but over time, his heart grew proud and disobedient. God sent the prophet Samuel to tell Saul that his kingdom would not last because he had turned away from the Lord's command. God had decided to raise up another king, a man after his own heart, someone who would follow him faithfully. One day, God spoke to Samuel and told him to go to Bethlehem, to the house of Jesse, because one of Jesse's sons would be the next king. Samuel was afraid, because Saul was still the king, but he obeyed God's voice. When Samuel arrived at Jesse's house, Jesse proudly brought his sons before the prophet. The first son, Eliab, was tall and strong, and Samuel thought, surely this must be the one God has chosen. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not see as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. One by one, Jesse brought 7 of his sons before Samuel, but God did not choose any of them. Finally, Samuel, "These all your sons." Jesse said, "There remains the youngest, but he is out tending the sheep." Samuel said, "Send for him, for we will not sit down until he comes." When David entered, he was young, with bright eyes and a heart full of humility. God spoke to Samuel's heart and said, "Rise and anoint him, for this is the one." Samuel poured the anointing oil on David's head, and from that day forward, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. Even though David had been chosen by God, he did not immediately become king. He returned to the fields and continued his daily work, playing music and tending sheep. But now, he carried a secret calling from God. His anointing did not change his humility, instead, it deepened his faith. He knew that when God chooses a person, he also prepares them for the purpose ahead. Meanwhile, in King Saul was troubled by an evil spirit that caused him deep sadness and fear. His servants suggested finding someone who could play the harp and soothe him. One of the servants remembered David, saying, "I have seen a son of Jesse who knows how to play the harp. He is brave, wise, and the Lord is with him." Saul sent messengers to bring David to the palace. When David came before the king, he played his harp, and the music filled the room with peace. Whenever the evil spirit came upon Saul, David's music calmed him, and Saul would feel better. Saul grew fond of David and made him his armor-bearer, though David often went back and forth between Saul's court and his father's home in Bethlehem. As time passed, the Philistines, Israel's old enemies, gathered their armies to fight again. They set their camp on one side of the valley, and the Israelites camped on the other. The Philistine army had a champion named Goliath of Gath, a man of enormous size and strength. Goliath was more than 9 feet tall, his armor weighed over 100 pounds, and his spear was like a weaver's beam. Every day, for 40 days, Goliath came forward and shouted, "Why do you come out to line up for battle? Choose one man to fight me. If he kills me, we will be your servants. But if I kill him, you will serve us." The entire army of Israel was terrified. No one dared to step forward, not even Saul, who was himself a tall man. Fear spread throughout the camp. Back in Bethlehem, Jesse told David to take food to his brothers who were fighting in the army and bring back news of them. David obeyed and set out early the next morning. When he arrived at the camp, he heard Goliath's voice echoing through the valley. The soldiers trembled, but David's heart burned with anger. He asked the men around him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel?" Who is this man that he should defy the armies of the living God? When David's oldest brother, Eliab, heard him talking, he became angry and said, Why have you come here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and deceit, you just came to watch the battle. But David replied calmly, What have I done now? Is there not a cause? Word soon reached King Saul that a young man was asking to face Goliath. Saul called David before him and looked at him with surprise. You are only a boy, Saul said. This man has been a warrior since his youth. But David said, Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine. Saul had no other volunteer, so he agreed and said, Go, and may the Lord be with you. He offered David his own armor, but when David tried it on, he could barely move. I cannot go in these, he said, and took them off. He picked up his shepherd's staff, chose 5 smooth stones from the brook, placed them in his bag, and with his sling in hand, walked out to face the giant. When Goliath saw David coming, he laughed. Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks? He shouted, Come here, and I will feed your flesh to the birds and beasts. But David stood firm and said, You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down. Then the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. As Goliath moved closer, David ran toward him. He reached into his bag, took out a stone, and slung it with all his strength. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath squarely in the forehead. The giant fell face down on the ground with a mighty crash. The Philistines were stunned. David ran up, took Goliath's own sword, and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled in terror, and the Israelites shouted for victory and chased them. The young shepherd who once watched over sheep had now saved his entire nation. God had taken someone small and unknown and used him to display his great power. The women of Israel came out singing, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. From that day, David became a hero, loved by the people and favored by God. Though his journey was only beginning, David's faith had already proven that God does not need mighty warriors to bring victory, he only needs a willing heart. The same God who gave David courage and victory over Goliath still gives his people strength today. When fear and challenges rise like giants, God reminds us that faith is our greatest weapon. So if you are watching this, remember that God can use anyone, no matter how small or unnoticed they may seem. David's story is proof that when you trust God completely, no giant can stand in your way. Stay strong in faith and believe that your own victory is already in God's hands. Thank you for watching to the end of today's story. Don't forget to subscribe for tomorrow's Bible story, where we'll continue to uncover the powerful lessons that strengthen your faith and bring you closer to God. Stay blessed and keep trusting the Lord, because the same God who was with David is with you right now. In the land of Canaan, long before kings ruled Israel, there lived a man named Jacob, the son of Isaac and the grandson of Abraham. His story is one of struggle, transformation, and divine purpose, a story that shows how God can take a flawed man and shape him into the father of a great nation. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for tomorrow's Bible story. Don't skip, because what you are about to hear will inspire your faith and remind you of God's mercy and power. Jacob was born a twin, the younger brother of Esau. Even before their birth, the two brothers struggled in their mother Rebekah's womb. When the time came, Esau was born first, red and hairy, and Jacob followed, grasping his brother's heel, as if fighting for the first place. Their names reflected their nature. Esau, meaning hairy, and Jacob, meaning the one who grasps, or the deceiver. As they grew, their differences deepened. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field. Jacob was quiet, preferring to stay close to home. Their father Isaac loved Esau for his wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. The favoritism in the family planted the seed for great conflict. One day, Esau returned from the fields, exhausted and hungry. Jacob had cooked a pot of lentil stew. Esau said, I am famished. Give me some of that red stew. Jacob saw an opportunity. Sell me your birthright, he said. Esau, thinking little of it, replied, I am about to die. What good is a birthright to me? So Esau swore an oath, trading his birthright for a meal. With one bowl of stew, Jacob claimed the right to be the spiritual heir of Abraham's covenant. Years passed, and Isaac grew old and blind. When it came time to bless his eldest son, Rebekah overheard Isaac telling Esau to hunt and prepare his favorite meal, so he could bless him before he died. Rebekah quickly told Jacob, "Go and bring me 2 young goats. I will prepare them so you can take the blessing meant for your brother." Jacob hesitated, "But my brother Esau is hairy, and I am smooth-skinned. What if my father touches me?" His mother replied, "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." So Jacob put on Esau's clothes, and Rebekah covered his hands and neck with goat skins. When Jacob went to his father, Isaac asked, "Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied, "I am Esau, your firstborn." The old man, suspicious, felt his hands and said, "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's." After eating the meal, Isaac blessed Jacob, saying, "May God give you the dew of heaven, the richness of the earth, and nations serve you." Moments later, Esau returned from hunting, only to discover the deception. His cry was so loud and bitter that it shook the household. "Bless me too, my father." He wept, but Isaac said, "Your brother has taken your blessing." From that day, Esau hated Jacob and vowed to kill him. Fearing for Jacob's life, Rebekah sent him away to her brother Laban in Haran. On his journey, Jacob stopped to rest for the night, using a stone for a pillow. As he slept, he dreamed of a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending on it. Above it stood the Lord, who said, "I am the God of Abraham and Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your descendants. I am with you and will keep you wherever you go." When Jacob awoke, he was afraid and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place." He set the stone as a pillar and called the place Bethel, meaning, house of God. When Jacob arrived in Haran, he met Rachel, Laban's beautiful daughter, by a well. It was love at first sight. He agreed to work 7 years for her hand in marriage. But on the wedding night, Laban deceived him and gave him Leah, the older sister, instead. When Jacob discovered this, he confronted Laban, who said, "It is not our custom to marry the younger before the older. Work another 7 years, and you may also marry Rachel." So Jacob agreed, and thus he had 2 wives, Leah, who bore him many sons, and Rachel, who was barren for many years until God blessed her with Joseph and Benjamin. Jacob worked for Laban 20 years in total, enduring deceit and hardship. Yet God blessed him greatly. His flocks multiplied, and he became wealthy. But tension grew between Jacob and Laban's sons, who envied his success. God told Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers, and I will be with you." So he gathered his family, flocks, and servants and secretly left for Canaan. When Laban discovered Jacob had fled, he pursued him, but God appeared to Laban in a dream, warning him not to harm Jacob. When they finally met, Laban and Jacob made peace, setting up a stone heap as a witness between them, and they parted ways. As Jacob approached Canaan, he feared meeting Esau, who he believed still wanted revenge. He sent gifts of livestock ahead to appease him and divided his family into groups, saying, "If Esau attacks one, the other can escape." That night, Jacob stayed alone by the river Jabbok. Suddenly, a mysterious man appeared and wrestled with him until dawn. When the man saw he could not overpower Jacob, he touched Jacob's hip, dislocating it. Still Jacob refused to let go, saying, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and men and have overcome." Jacob realized he had wrestled with a divine being, perhaps even